We have a brief agenda for tonight. We're going to sort of go through some of the things that each officer has done, some of the major activities we've had this year. We'll talk a little bit about ORM, and then paper awards, a little bit of recognition stuff, and then we'll turn it over to Mike, who will be the incoming chair. So let's get started. First up, Patty, tell us about the PDW program.
So Academy allots us a certain amount of time each year for our PDWs. We have 38 hours this year. We filled that with 16 PDWs, and it was a mix of sort of our non-competitive sessions like Ask the Experts that we historically do, and then the rest were filled with competitive submissions from members of the Academy. And it was a mix of qualitative, quantitative, of the 16, there was about 7 that were, so of the 14 actually that were competitive, 7 were qualitative, 7 quantitative, 4 qualitative, 3 kind of bridged between the two areas. And they're a mix of things that we've offered in the past that have been really popular and new things that we've never offered before. And one of our PDWs was selected for all the Academy this year. We are the only division that collects feedback on our PDWs, and it's already been entered, and I know what it is. So, average PDW score on a scale of 1 to 5 was substantially above 5 above 4 for all of our excuse me, for all of the PDWs. But and so we will be sending that feedback out to the various presenters and organizers as well. But we couldn't do that and do all the other things that we need to do for the PDWs without an army of doctoral volunteers. And my volunteers this year were incredibly amazing, and so I want to thank all of them by name. So we had Ryan Gottfredson, we had Harry Jew, I saw here somewhere, okay. We had Monica Sharif, we had Ben McClarty, Josh Ben Dixon, Kristen Lee Sotak, Delia Manon, and Chris Rayna, and they were fabulous. And I would recommend hiring them.
Okay, next, Ryan's going to tell us about the scholarly program.
Okay. Those of you that might think about running for the program chair cycle, takeaways, it's not nearly as crummy a job as you might expect. Okay. And seriously, you do PDW, you kind of break into it, and then you do the main program the next year. And it actually works pretty well, and a lot of that is because this division functions really nicely. We had 8 symposia. They were co-sponsored with a whole assortment of different divisions, and then 36 papers. We did a plenary session just prior to this. That was ORM, past, present, and future. So we had our founding editor and the outgoing and incoming editors, and then just kind of a free forum, very low-key discussion about where publishing and research methodology is going, different ideas and stuff like that. And really interesting conversation there. And so thanks to Larry and Zay and James for doing that. We got a statistical average of 3 reviews per paper, which means that there were a couple that were less, right? But some people got a whole lot of reviews that kind of even out for that. 97% of my review requests were completed, and so only 3% of those went AWOL. And the really cool thing is we had lots and lots of volunteers, and so filling in those 3% was really easy. I went hunting and foraging. I got folks where I said, hey, I need you to do a review, and I had one person who said, fine, and 6 hours later, the review popped back in, right, because he was concerned that he was holding the program back. We got all our reviews done before the official deadline because people were something like 40% of the people who signed up for a review signed up for emergency reviewer duty. One of the things this means, because we have just so many people who volunteer to review, is that I didn't use everybody. There were people that I gave no reviews to. Very, very, very brief story. I had terror in the middle of the night when someone contacted me, and that person was a former chair of the division, former editor of our journal. Totally anonymous, I won't say who it was, former Lifetime Achievement Award winner. She lives in a large Midwestern state that begins and ends with a vowel. Sending me an email saying, I don't want to say that you screwed up the program, but I'm just letting you know I've received no reviews. So maybe you should consider if you've somehow screwed up the entire program. I was on vacation in Valley. This came in the middle of the night, and I saw, oh my God, Herman. I didn't need to send Herman papers, and I didn't need to send a bunch of people papers, because we had just so many people who signed up for it. And it was, and it turned out I did not screw it up. And after they put the paddles, they got me going again. It was all fine. If you didn't get papers, one of the reasons for that is they do this triple matching on the keywords. And so if your big takeaway was, God, I really wanted to review for division and I didn't get to do it, add more keywords to your list, because it'll increase the chance of doing it. Seriously, people were phenomenally helpful during all of this, and it was easy, and so it was pretty cool. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, if you'd like more details on our finances, we have those here. I'm also happy to chat with anybody in person if you'd like. A couple of highlights. We are still in the black, which I think is a good thing. This is my first year as a treasurer, so I want to thank Chris Byron, who's here, my predecessor, and the executive committee for all of their help. So this year we had a balance forward of about $13,000, and we received a division allocation of about $26,000 for total funds of about $40,000. We expect to spend about $35,000 of those this year. We are spending approximately our division allocation in meeting-related expenses, which is something that we aim to do each year. And because we have forward a fairly high balance, we've made a couple of expenditures this year to make sure that we're using our funds, including some flash drives, R&D loaded flash drives, and some outreach activities at other conferences. One thing that you might want to know, next year's allocation we expect to be very slightly down, about 1%. Membership in the division is down about 1%, so that'll go down prominently. And the other thing to say is that meeting-related expenses are a little higher this year than we've had in the past. I think that's almost entirely due to the location. Some of you may have heard Disney is very expensive. We also added a Doctoral Consortium this year, which has added a little bit more. The last thing, if you have other suggestions about longer-term investments that you feel would be beneficial for the division, I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say, and I think I can say that the rest of the executive committee would be as well. Thank you.
Oh, okay. This year was the 5-year review process. Every division in Academy on a sort of rolling schedule has to go through a 5-year review process where the Academy Board of Governors wants to look at how we're doing. They want to look at our governance structure. They want to understand what's working for us, what's not, how well we're serving our members, whether or not we're being financially responsible, and so forth. And it was our year. So we had a committee, Todd Alessandri, Mark Bonet, Chris Byron, Dan Newman, and Hetty Richardson. Please stand for a minute because this involved a lot of work, and we should thank them, and then I'll tell you what the review is about. The feedback that we got from AOM, and this includes both a health and governance checklist, a sort of free-form report. You may have noticed that we asked everybody to complete a survey to indicate your satisfaction with the division, with their programming, and so forth. And that was a real substantive part of the report that we filed. And AOM gave us feedback that said that we have some pretty good strengths. One of them is that our mission of trying to be everyone's second division, for the most part, is working. Okay? That people who do belong to RMD identify with RMD almost as much as they do with another division, or in some cases equally. And that's entirely consistent with what we're trying to be, is a resource for everyone in academy. We also had a very high satisfaction rating. For the most part, people are pretty pleased with the services that our division offers. And again, the Board of Governors was quite pleased with that as well. RMNet is still the single biggest thing that people love about the division. And then the PDW program is also what people love. It's the opportunity for people to come and continue to upgrade their skills, learn something new. And RMNet is a way that you can do that all year long by posting questions so that you can get directed to the right resources and get questions answered. And those are the two features that kept coming up over and over again in the feedback survey. They also really like the involvement by the membership. Just as you heard Brian say, the response that we get from our membership in terms of being willing to review is unmatched in any other division. I mean, I've been in those meetings and everybody is complaining about how much trouble they have trying to get reviewers for the program. We don't have this problem at all. Okay, we have a surplus, which really indicates that the division means a lot to people, that they're willing to step up and serve, when in a lot of divisions they're not so willing to do that. They also really like the number of ways that we try to reach out to all kinds of constituencies within RMD. So we have special offerings for doctoral students. We try to have special offerings for faculty at any stage of their career. We have significantly strengthened our qualitative offerings over the years. We're adding more macro offerings. And they recognize that we're really making an effort to try to both understand what the needs are of everybody in the membership, and then to try to offer services and programming that go about helping to meet those needs. And AOM really like that. They also like that we keep trying stuff. Okay? The notion that we're not just sitting around continuing to try to do the same things that we've always done, but that we keep looking at what can we do to improve, what can we do to add, that we study how well it works, and then we tinker, revise, and go forward with it. All stuff they really like. There is an issue with our membership rates. It's been generally kind of flat the last few years. This is totally consistent with AOM's membership, which has also been relatively flat over the last few years. There's a lot of talk across the academy of what the reasons might be for that. Some of it just might be the recent troubles, financial troubles across the globe. And it's something that we're addressing ourselves within the executive committee, to look at ways to try to strengthen ourselves and to try to reach out to more people and to keep them despite any financial difficulties that might be going on across the globe. And then we were aware ourselves, and they agreed that yes, actually we need to upgrade the website, improve communication a bit. If there's information you would like to pass along to any one of us, please tell us about those things. Overall, the report was very, very positive. And what struck me was that the single biggest thing that they really like about what we do is that we're paying attention and we're trying to improve. So that we're aware of when something is weak and needs strengthening, and that we're aware of the need to continually sort of monitor how well we're doing and adjust. And that's what they like. So it's not that they expected us to be perfect. It's that they appreciate and really like our continuous effort to improve. So overall, the review process took some time, but I think it was really worth it, because I think it helped clarify for execs sort of where we are strategically, the kinds of things that we do need to work on, and overall it's a very valuable process. I was aware of Mark Gavin's report from the previous time, and we were able to build from that, so I can understand the directions that we're taking, and this is all fine, and the Academy was pleased. Okay. The other major thing we did this year, before I get to this, let me explain explain. I'm not telling you everything that happened this year because we have a social to get to, right? So we're just sort of giving you some highlights about some major things that we would like everyone to be aware of. Right? And another major new initiative on our part this year was having a consortium. And we partnered with Larry and CARMA. Thank you, Larry. All right, thank you, Alex, who is here also, because we couldn't have done it with them. We had talked for years, and I've been aware of people on exec having talked for at least 10 or 15 years about we didn't have a consortium. We didn't have a doctoral consortium. We had no sort of concentrated effort to try to help people within the research methods division. It was problematic to do so at the academy because every other division is having a consortium on the same days that we would like to, and we would be asking people to choose. And we're not trying to ask people to choose us over HR or over BPS or anything else. That's not the point. And a consortium would also take up a significant number of our PDW hours. And we really believe in that portion of our programming, and we did not want to reduce that in order to have a doctoral consortium. And then we were stuck for a long time. Well, how do we do it? But with the partnership with CARMA, we were able to have a consortium for doctoral students and junior faculty that was virtual. This was pretty cool. We did it over the summer, just after, pretty much after the semester ended for most universities. And we had a setup that Larry and his people arranged where it was real-time virtual, but anybody with a computer and a reliable internet connection could log it into their Windows system, and you would see panelists talking, and you could raise questions, and you could hear the voice of the person asking the question, or they could type in the question in a text box along the side, whichever way was most comfortable, so that you had real give-and-take interactive kinds of sessions, just the way you would in any kind of consortium anywhere else in Academy. Except that we did it for 90 minutes per session over 5 weeks, which is good. We had 3 different tracks. We had a micro quantitative track, a macro quantitative track, and a qualitative track. And we had, again, like I said, 5 weeks of different topics. We covered mixed methods. We covered how you manage a research process, or for many people that was their dissertation process. How to teach methods, different strategies for going out trying to engage students into something that, for some reason, sometimes they might not like so much. You would understand it. Particularly, we tried to focus on sort of how you craft a methodological contribution. As many of you are aware, our submission rates compared to other divisions are a little lower because we actually have a high bar. You not only have to know something about the topic, you have to add something to the topic. And that's kind of a daunting prospect, particularly for people who have not been or are not being trained in places where they have methodologists who can sort of take them by the hand and help them in that sort of mentoring process to do that. And we were trying to help deal with some of those issues as well. And then how to manage having a career in some substantive division and still combine that with your interest in methodology. So those were the 5 weeks that we had. And then, I guess it was Saturday night, we had a social event for all participants in the consortium. So participants and panelists were all invited to get to see each other, usually for the first time, wherever they happened to be, and to be able to engage in conversation. So again, our first year for this, we didn't know for sure what we were doing, right? But we made it all work, and we did get some feedback on how well that process worked, and overall it was pretty good. We had over 60 participants, and I turned some people away who really weren't quite sure what they were getting into, and I told them we would offer other offerings for them, representing 6 continents. So I was stunned at the number of people from Africa, for example, who signed up. People from everywhere, except Dan Armour, I guess. But everywhere else, they signed up. And I'm just giving you a list of the panelists who very graciously volunteered their time over the summer to come and do this with us, to master, what for most of us was a new kind of technology. And again, we had great feedback on all of that. Everyone found it remarkably easy to use and to really a pretty good way of delivering this kind of content. Now, I can't begin to thank the number of people who helped Karen Jansen, who was not even on our exec board, who took over the qualitative track. And then we yet again used our student representatives, Ryan Gottfriedson and Monica Sharif. They helped recruit all the participants. They made a feedback survey at the end. We relied on them. And then Larry and Alex and Hannah, who did so many things. I still cannot bring myself to ask Larry how many hours that involved on his part and on the part of his staff. But that's what really made it all possible. So thank you so much. We have agreed as an exec that we will do a consortium again. We're going to do a number of things, and Mark will talk about this more, but we will do a consortium again. We're probably going to try to hone it in a little more towards the people who are kind of ready to take the next step from knowing something about methods and having some ideas to getting them closer to the point where they can actually say submit to Academy and then use that as a stepping stone to submit to ORM, so that we can sort of increase the number of people who can participate in the community at that level. Mike will talk about some other initiatives that will also help to serve the needs of people who want to just learn more stuff, because we're still trying to meet that need as well. Let me see, I can't remember. It's Jose's turn.
I am as anxious as anyone to get to the reception, so I'll try to keep this brief. I'm as of July 1st, James LeBreton started accepting manuscripts as editor, so my term is officially up. I've still got to deal with all the stuff in the pipeline, but I just wanted to thank everybody who has been a part of the journal, as some of you have heard me say in other venues. It's so clear that everyone takes the success of that journal personally in a way that I don't think is true of most, if any, journals, and it shows in the quality of the content and the success of the journal. If you track impact factors, our impact factor makes us one of the most highly cited journals in management, even though we're also one of the newest journals. I have always believed and still believe that Larry had really identified a niche, and that ORM fills that niche wonderfully well. We worked really hard to make the submission process developmental. There are no form letters at ORM. Even the desk rejects get an actual review from me. I get emails all the time from people whose papers were rejected saying how helpful they found the feedback. And for those of you who've reviewed, which is probably all of you, you know that that's really gratifying to hear, because a rejection is a heartbreaker. And when somebody, in spite of the heartbreak, can still realize that they nevertheless got very helpful feedback, that means the feedback process is working really well. I want to thank James for taking this on. It's been a blast, but it is a lot of work, and I just hope that you will give him the same support that you've given me. I know that you will. And I want to thank Cynthia and everybody at SAGE for being such wonderful partners. Thank you guys both very much. The best part of this job is coordinating the best paper award. And the way that it works, in case you haven't listened to me talk about this before, is the editorial board gets to pick the paper that in a given year they think is the best paper published in ORM. So they submit their top 3 papers to me. I compile those nominations, and the papers that are most highly nominated then get sent back out to the board, and they vote on which one they think should receive the best paper. And I was thinking to myself, I was really glad I wasn't on the board, so that I don't have to figure out which of these terrific papers actually belongs in the top 3. Because it looks to me like everything we publish is fantastic. Maybe I'm a little biased. But that's the way that this process works. And this year, for 2012, the actual plaques have already been mailed. But this year, for 2012, The winner of the Best Paper Award is a paper on Bayesian analysis by John Kruski, Herman Aguinas, and Harry Jude.
Yeah.
So if John's not here, right? Yeah, but if the two of you would come up here, we can give you your props. Like I said, the actual plaques are in the mail. These are symbolic. Mr. John. But before you go, it is also true that I had contacted Herman to get together with his colleague, John Kruski, to write a paper on Bayesian analysis. And then I was the action editor and spent more time action editing this paper than maybe any I ever had, because I wanted it to be done exactly right. And I know that Herman believes in justice, so he would want credit to be, given where it's due. So I actually had my niece create a small addendum to your plaque. So you just glue it to the bottom or tape it to the bottom. And then I attach that to the bottom. And I think everybody will feel the credit was
Absolutely. Can I keep this?
You have to put it in your office.
Okay, I will.
And I don't know, Cynthia, you probably want to say a few words. James, you probably don't want to say a few words, but will anyway. But that's all I got. Thank you all so much for the support that you've given the journal.
Thank you. All I really have to say at this point is just thank you all for all of your dedication to such a terrific journal. And on behalf of the entire team at SAGE, we're just thrilled to have the privilege to be able to publish with you. So thank you.
Everything that Cynthia said, except not on behalf of the publishing team at SAGE, but on behalf of me and the editorial board. Thanks to everybody for all the wonderful support you've given to Jose and to Herman, to Bob, and to Larry. I'm excited about having the journal, and I look forward to working with the division to try to continue to expand its impact on people.
So we have some awards. To begin, I'd like to thank the members of the awards committee who helped to choose the award winners. Neil Schmidt, Mark Griffin, Craig Crossland, Louis Tay, Peg Williams, Kevin Carlson, and Mike Zephyr. We had many fantastic nominees this year for the awards, and the bad news there is that there were a lot of great people and great papers that will not be getting an award this year. But the good side is that some really fantastic people and papers will be getting some awards. The first award is the Sage Publications Research Methods Division Distinguished Career Award, which will go to Philip Potzkoff now from the University of Florida. Before he comes up to make his remarks, I'd like to say a few things. Potzkoff has over 70 peer-reviewed pubs, and he's one of the top 5 most cited authors in the field of management. He has over 10,000 Web of Science citations and well over 20,000 Google Scholar citations. You may or may not know that 3/4 of those citations are to research methods articles. And he has over a dozen separate papers that are each cited more than 100 times. He has studied construct validation, measurement models, common method bias, and problems with ipsative methods, among other things. He has also won 22 teaching awards, including many awards for his research methods seminar. And with regard to service, he was an associate editor of JAP. He's been on the editorial boards of JAP, PSYCH, OBHTP, JOM, amassing over 90 person years of editorial board service. And he also was the chair of the Research Methods Division when we were an interest group and not a division in 1987. So here's Phil Potzkoff.
your fellow peers. And so I'm really, really appreciative of this award. When Dan let me know that I won this award, one of the things he said is there was a tradition of people getting up and having a few words. And so I was sort of thinking about what I wanted to do, and I said, Dan, what would you recommend? He said, well, you can talk about personal things. You can tell us a little bit about, how you went through your career. You can talk about papers that were hard to publish. You can talk about why you published specific methods articles. And I thought about those, and I had sort of two stories, but one of the themes that I've already heard this evening is we've got to get to the reception. So let me just tell you one story, just one story. And it relates to the Research Methods Interest Group. I have to give you a little history on this. I was a newly minted associate professor, just got tenure in 1985. And the meetings were a little bit different at that time. You actually heard about when you were nominated to an officer position just before the meeting. So just before the 85 meeting, I heard that I was going to be the program chair of the Research Methods Interest Group. Meetings were in San Diego. San Diego is a little bit like this place, except it's not quite so spread out. It's you don't have to get in a bus to go somewhere else like we have to here. But it was pretty spread out, and I was walking across one of the between some of the hotels, and Don Hellriegel saw me. Don was the vice president of the academy that year, and he was the program chair. So Don sort of spread him across this green expanse, and he shook my hand. He said, "Hey, congratulations! It's really great that you've been recognized by your peers as the vice president and program chair of the Research Methods Interest Group." And I was really feeling good about that. But the very next word out of Don's mouth was, "I just want to let you know that unless you increase the number of submissions to the division next year, the interest group, we're going to fold. It's going to close it." So in a period of a minute, I was really high and then really low. And I went back and looked. And you have to put this in context. 1985, there's no internet. I couldn't go home and write a mail to everyone and say, submit papers. So on the way home, my wife will remember this. I was writing on the plane. All the people I knew, everybody I could think of that I would call on the phone. I got back to Indiana. And I called everybody on the phone, so much so that the financial person at Indiana University Business School came to my office, knocked on the door, and she said, "What are you doing? I mean, you're making all these calls." And I explained the situation to her. The great news is we went from, Brian will appreciate this, we went from 22 submissions of papers in 1985 to 46. We went from 2 symposia to 4. It doesn't compare to what you're getting now, but let me tell you, the only reason I'm really, really pleased about that, I can see myself, new associate professor who saw the demise of the Research Methods Interest Group, and we avoided that. So I was really, really pleased to do that. The division's come a long way since then. It's really gratifying to see how much growth it's had. And I just want to thank you for this recognition, this award. It's really well appreciated. So thanks very much.
Next award is the Research Methods Division CARMA Early Career Award, which goes to Jen Zhang from Arizona State. Next, we have the SAGE Publications McDonald Award for Advancement of Organizational Research Methodology for the paper published in a 5-year window, judged to make a significant contribution to the research methods. And for this one, we have Jeff Edwards and Lisa Lambert. Please raise your hand if you cited this paper. Oh, it's you. Next one, SAGE Publications. Thank you, SAGE, for your generous very supportive of these awards. Sage Publications Methods Division Best Paper Award for the Best Conference Paper goes to Ernest Boyle, George Banks, and Eric Gonzalez-Millay.
If any of our award winners would like their box, feel free to pick them up.
The paper these authors are being recognized for, The Chrysalis Effect, How Ugly Data Metamorphosize into Beautiful Articles, is an interesting paper that everyone should download and read because it's about how ugly data from people's dissertations, hypotheses magically disappear when they get into the published version or magically appear or reverse direction. And this is kind of an expose of that phenomenon. Whoops. And the last award, Meg Zhang Lee. Sorry, Meg Zhang Lee. Paper on using quantile regression to identify inequality.
The past chair always runs the elections for new officers, and unfortunately Mark Griffin couldn't be here tonight. He's still in Australia. But he managed the elections. We have two wonderful people joining the executive this year. Jen Long again is representative at large, and Dan Newman is starting his first year of the 5-year track that begins with PDW chair, and then will work its way up through chair and past chair. Welcome, both of you. Thank you. Okay, and now we have some officers who are departing one position, moving on to a next. Something report, and Mike and I will manage that process. I'm going to let Mike kind of tell me what to do.
Yay, Mark Griffin.
Quick way of handling it, you have to understand, Mark Griffin served a term as representative at large, and then he devoted 5 years of his life beyond that to serving in each role of the 5-year leadership track. So it's significant, and unfortunately he couldn't be with us here tonight, but we still need to commend that.
Ending her term as our fearless leader, Lisa has done more this year than really anyone should ever have to for the division, leading us with the 5-year report and the Doctoral Consortium. It was just too much work, really. It was a lot, and she did a fabulous job of all things. Really, while we tend to just give these plaques and say, yay, she did a phenomenal job and really deserves some extra attention. The combination. She's great. So. Me.
You.
Yay, me.
Okay.
Tell us about yourself, Mike.
I feel a song coming on.
Mike did something that the chair-elect has never done before, and it actually worked out really, really well and helps the rest of us a great deal, is he coordinated a bunch of functions, particularly all the various kinds of catering functions that have driven each person in the 5-year track kind of crazy to understand. Managed the whole thing and did all of that. And in addition to assisting with all the other kinds of things that go on in vision. So that was extremely helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For program chair. Right.
Ryan moves into the chair-elect position. This is the standard sequence.
All the food stuff.
I'm sick next year.
Yeah.
So I'm donating a lung in July, so.
Thanks to be you. And completing as our PDW chair.
Eddie.
We have two people ending their role as representative at large. Peg Williams is not here at the moment, but Peg deserves a round of applause.
Dan. Dan started his service when he was a student, and then has done this rep at large position, and is now signing up to a full 5-year term. So, thank you. Yes, okay, yeah, you deal with the boxes, all right. We started having student reps a few years ago, and each year we keep adding to their role, having them do more and more things. And we have had Ryan Doctorson and Monica Shree last year and this year. And they had no idea what hit them this year. We just kept throwing stuff at them, and they kept doing it, and doing it fast and doing it right. Initially, they were to just help with the PDW sessions. No, it became much more than that. You know, dealing with the feedback, and then we tossed out the Doctoral Consortium, the Senior Faculty Consortium on them. They did an additional survey to find out what topics people would like to see at the PDW. So we kept them hopping pretty much all year, and actually, a lot of things would not have happened. We would have been sunk without them. So they really deserve a great deal of credit. I don't, is Monica in the room? But I know Brian is here. Brian. We're done with the work?
Go with that.
Okay. Now, I'm done as chair.
I will be very brief. My goal is essentially not to screw anything up too badly this year. A bit more specifically, I'm going to try to address, as my role this year, I'm going to try to address some of the challenges that were raised in the 5-year report, looking at increasing international membership, finding more ways to be inclusive of qualitative macro-level research paradigms. We're going to devote a lot of effort this year to the website, newsletter, and general communication, so we're hoping to have some real improvements that you'll see and be able to benefit from. I do want to also expand the offerings that we have for, particularly for introductory level type material available through the website, so that people who feel like that they haven't gotten everything they wanted out of their doctoral education can have some stuff to review, basics materials, not just all high level difficult stuff. So like for those of us who can't spell indogeneity, well, you know, there'll be things to help. Other things, we're going to continue our recent successes. Again, the faculty, the Virtual Faculty Consortium, want to continue that. More involvement, it was requested that we look into increasing enrollment of our members on our MNet, which is again very successful and very popular of the division. And as I said, just try not to mess anything up too badly this year, because I'm really a great person to follow. I'd much rather have low expectations, but I have a lot to try to do. And that's what I'm going to do this year, and that's all I have to say about that. So there's a reception with food. We have free drink coupons scattered randomly about people. So if you need a free drink coupon, just like start jumping up and down, waving your hands or something like that, and someone will probably get you one, or we'll just watch for a while. But we do have coupons. There should be plenty of food. Eat up and enjoy yourself. And thank you all very much for coming to the meeting. And I hope you have a great year. So we're Fiesta 5.